Hello, you're watching News Mongolia and MNB World. I'm your host, Untitled Chapter. Our top stories. Mongolia ranks 111th out of 180 countries in Transparency International's 2020 Corruption Index. VAT refunds disbursed on Tuesday. Preparations are ongoing for the start of the 2021 to 2022 academic year. For other news, stay tuned. The Ministry of Health provided its daily updates on COVID-19 status in Mongolia. The total number of COVID-19 cases in Mongolia reached 149,733. As of today, 1,309 new cases were confirmed nationwide, bringing the total number of COVID-19 cases in Mongolia to 149,733. Within the past 24 hours, 3,501 more patients have recovered. Unfortunately, 5 more patients died due to COVID-19 complications. Out of today's cases, 523 were confirmed in Ulaanbaatar, and 786 were confirmed in the provinces. As of today, 9,941 COVID-19 patients are being treated at hospitals. Out of them, 214 are in critical condition. Additionally, 13,164 people with mild symptoms are being treated at home. Transparency International, a global coalition against corruption, issued its 2020 report. With a score of 35, Mongolia ranks at 111 after 180 countries in the corruption index.
Compared to the previous year's corruption index ranking, Mongolia's ranking has fallen 5 places, falling from 106 to 111th. During the most recent cabinet meeting, the government of Mongolia issued a decision to establish a working group to eliminate corruption and bureaucracy and to reduce the country's corruption index score. On Monday, Prime Minister Uyurda announced that in the next 2 years, the government of Mongolia will work towards creating a new society without corruption. The working group will be chaired by Minister of Justice and Home Affairs Nyambatar, who has been instructed to develop and implement an intensified action plan. According to the index report, the main reason for Mongolia's high corruption score may be an increase in perceptions of the abuse of power by public officials. In addition, Mongolia's rating has declined due to the increased risk of corruption in the operations of private businesses and the conclusion of contracts and agreements. Transparency International is a global movement headquartered in Berlin. It is active in over 100 countries and promotes transparency, accountability, and integrity.
Thank you for staying with us on MNB World. Now let's look at Mongolia's current affairs.
Ambassador of Mongolia to the Republic of Cuba signed a memorandum of understanding between the School of International Relations and Public Administration of the National University of Mongolia and the Cuban Higher Institute of International Relations to expand cooperation in the field of education. During a ceremony held for the signing of the MOU, Cuban and Mongolian officials noted that the MOU gives the parties the opportunity to exchange teachers and students in the field of international relations, start joint research projects, and exchange experiences. Cooperation between Mongolia and Cuba in the field of education, which has been actively developing for many years, has begun to expand into the field of international relations. Foreign Minister Batsitsek presented the Order of the Polar Star to Alex Hykins, UNICEF representative in Mongolia, on Monday. The honor was presented under Presidential Decree No. 11, dated July 9th, for its valuable contributions to the development of cooperation between Mongolia and the United Nations Children's Fund, and for the tangible and timely support provided to Mongolia in combating the COVID-19 pandemic and mitigating its socio-economic impacts. Alex Hykins was appointed to serve as the UNICEF representative in Mongolia on July 21, 2017. During his tenure, he has made significant contributions to child development and protection, as well as the launch of the government's vaccination campaign and strengthening the nation's capacity to cope with public health emergencies by supporting construction of the Central Vaccine and Biological Products Storage Facility at the National Center for Communicable Diseases in response to COVID-19.
Value-added tax refunds for the second quarter of 2021 were scheduled to be disbursed on July 20th. For the first quarter of the year, 40.6 billion Mongolian tugrus was delivered to 1,023,235 taxpayers, while 45.4 billion Mongolian tugrus will be distributed to 1,166,880 people for the second quarter. In order to distribute VAT refunds, the General Department of Taxation transfers refunds to the State Fund, which are then transferred to commercial banks for deposit into customer accounts. After verifying that e-BUREAUCRACY system data meets guidelines set out by Article 5.1 of the Law on VAT, the Taxation Department transfers funds to the Ministry of Finance within 2 working days. Then the Ministry of Finance is required to allocate the funding to the special refund account within 20 business days. After that, the funds are transferred to taxpayers' accounts within 3 business days. VAT refunds that are not deposited due to missing information in the e-BUREAUCRACY system are deposited no later than the second half of the following year. VAT tax refunds for the first, second, and third quarters are disbursed in April, July, and October. The refund for the fourth quarter is disbursed within the first half of the following year. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, students were not able to attend in-person lessons for the most of 2020 to 2021 academic year. The public has been speculating as to whether or not students will be able to return to classrooms on September 1st. The Minister of Education and Science, Inha Motlang, provided an update on plans for the upcoming school year and said that the preparations are ongoing to start the academic year on September 1st.
The minister said that the start of academic year is regulated by the education law and that the ministry would follow the law and regulations on education. However, he noted that it is hard to predict what the COVID-19 situation might be. So far, around 70% of children aged 12 to 17 have received their second dose of vaccine. About 80% of secondary school teachers have been fully vaccinated. Educational institutions across the country are preparing to start classes on September 1st, and guidelines have been given to local authorities, schools, and kindergartens for a safe start to the new school. However, the final decision to start classroom learning will be left to the cabinet. The Minister of Education and Science noted that if in-class lessons don't start on September 1st of this year, Mongolia will become one of the few countries that has closed classrooms for most of the past 2 years. Some experts say that it will take 3 years to clear the education backlog caused by the pandemic.
Now let's look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. And here's the weather forecast for major cities around the world. That's it for today. Many thanks for staying with us on News Mongolia. See you tomorrow with more stories and updates. Please follow MNB World on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a great evening. Goodbye.